So Get the Gig is built around what I call the triangle. It's a really creative name, but but basically, I want people to picture a triangle or a pyramid broken into three layers. Okay, the top layer is your smallest layer, but it's at the very top. It's the most important, and that's your networking. Okay, that's your ability to have one-on-one personal relationships with people where you can set impressions and build those levels of trust. If you don't have that one, the rest of the layers don't matter. You got to have that one first. So you have to become really intentional about making those relationships with people. The second layer is emails, and we go into the book on what's the right email etiquette, all those kind of things. It doesn't need to be long. In fact, the shorter the better. 3 sentences max, links to some really important things, but the shorter the better. An email, again, it's your second most important thing because an email is never going to get you a gig. It may once in a very blue moon, but just because you're emailing a whole bunch of people, you haven't developed that layer of trust, which is the first one, right? So an email, what I tell people to do is think of their email like a digital business card, and you're just sending your information. Okay, the bottom of the pyramid, that's your biggest layer. It's very big. It's a lot of work, and it's probably it on its own would never get you gigs. Again, maybe 1 or 2 here and there, but it's very, very important to completing the full triangle, and that's your web presence, your social media presence. Do you have pictures? Do you have videos? Do you have all these kind of things? Some of the most essential things that I tell people is, do you have a Facebook? People will say, okay, well, I'm not really into the whole social media thing, and which I totally understand. There's a lot of tips for social media in this book. I get it if you don't want to do a bunch of social media, but the one you really need to have is Facebook. And you need to try and push as many people as you can to that Facebook. And I've got a few tips for that as well. But what you want to try and do is get yourself to about 1,000 likes. If you can get to 1,000 likes, you really start turning heads of venues because they've had it so beat into them. You have to have a Facebook. You have to have a Facebook. You have to have a Facebook over the last several years. That now that's the only thing they're looking at. The very first thing they look at when they look at an artist is do they have a Facebook, and how many likes do they have? So some things like that. Videos. Rather than going and producing songs, I really think artists need to be producing videos. Not music videos, but live videos. Really nice live videos of them interacting with the crowd. What's their stage presence like? A lot of times people have records where you've got a big saxophone solo, but you don't actually have a saxophone player in the band, right? A video can really let them know, okay, what's the performance going to look like? I've never booked somebody off of a CD, but I have booked based off of videos because I can see what are you doing with the crowd? How are you interacting with people? What's the stage presence like? All that stuff, right? So some things like that. And so basically it all breaks down into those 3 parts. Is you're building a personal relationship with people. That's the number one most important thing. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. Next is your emails. Now your emails are not going to get you as many gigs as those personal relationships are, but you can only form so many personal relationships. Now when you start forming those relationships, that bartender, that bar owner, that club owner, that whoever starts to tell the other people in their circle of influence about you too. So just because you form a relationship with one person doesn't mean that you're done at one. You start forming a bunch of relationships in one area, and then they start talking to each other, and now it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows, right? So you start forming relationships, getting really intentional about that. I tell musicians if they can take 1 day a week and just go someplace that they wouldn't normally go, but that they would like to play, and even if it's just to eat or drink there, it'll make a huge, huge difference. Okay, so do your networking, have your emails, and when you have your emails going, that's your digital business card, right? You're able to send your information to as many people. Again, short, simple, sweet emails, 3 sentences max, and just have links there. Here's my Facebook. Here's my video of me playing live. And that's where we get into that bottom layer, right? We get into the bottom layer where we've got our web presence and all of those things that you're linking people to. You need the bottom layer because if you don't have the bottom layer, the email doesn't have anything in it, right?
Very true.
So you're forming, you take an area and you get really intentional about forming personal relationships in that area. Then you send emails to everybody in that area that you can with links to a really healthy social media presence or web presence. And so that's really Get the Gig in a nutshell, is breaking down those 3 areas, giving you really specific tools as to what it looks like. And once you've got that triangle fully formed, it works very cyclical. Form a relationship, send them your digital business card, and then link them to all of your web presence. And when you get that formula down, that triangle goes from a triangle to a freaking rocket ship. It just takes off.
Yeah, that definitely makes some sense, if you
Love
ask
it.
me.